I have got a story time for you today. And like all great stories, this one starts with a boy. We're going to call him Chike. Hi, my name is Vera Ezimora, and I am a storyteller, in case you can't tell, and the founder of Verastic.com. I use my words to give people audacity to do the thing. Let us get into the story. Okay, like I said, this starts with a boy. We're calling him Chike. I was dating this boy. Of course I was. I was dating Chike and our relationship was fairly new. But then we had an issue. This issue was Chike's fault. So Chike, in his bid to make it work, Chike, in his bid to get me to move on, introduced me to his pastor. Now, he had told me about this pastor, but this was the first time I was talking to the pastor. I never met this pastor in person. It was over the phone. So he introduces me to this pastor is not the pastor of his church. He is a pastor that he knew. He was a pastor that he knew and respected. Okay. So we're going to call him Pastor John. So Chike introduces me to Pastor John. Chike literally reported himself to Pastor John saying, "Hey, Pastor John, I did da 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 da. Can you help me beg Vera to forgive me?" That was pretty much what it was. And so Pastor John comes on the phone and, introduces himself and blah, 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 says, "Oh, I've heard a lot. The usual. I've heard a lot. I've heard so much about you. Yeah, 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 yeah." So Pastor John proceeds to say, "Hey, Chike, men, we can do some stupid things sometimes and, forgive John. I mean, forgive Chike." So we moved past it, the issue. And Pastor John kept in touch. He would like send me Bible verses every now and then, things like that. Maybe video of inspiration, whatever. And that was pretty much the communication between me and Pastor John. Like I said, I never met him. I didn't even know what he looked like, because I'd only heard his voice. So at another time, another instance, Chike did something again. Because, one thing about Chike and people like Chike is they're going to mess up. If they did something once, they will probably do it again. Okay. So Chike did this mess up again. Actually, it was a different mess up. It was a related mess up, but a different mess up. So once again, Pastor John. Now, this time, Chike did not go and report himself to Pastor John. But remember, I told you that Pastor John stayed in touch. Like they asked me, "Hey, how is everything going?" He would send me Bible verses. So one random day, Pastor John reaches out to me, says, "Hey, how are things going with you and Chike?" So I was like, I'm glad you asked. Actually, things are not going very well, though. This issue that we had, this issue is coming up again. And he's like, "What?" So I said, "Yeah, I didn't go into details to tell Pastor John everything, but I basically gave him high level information. Like, this is what happened. This is how I'm feeling." So Pastor John said, "What's wrong with this boy? I will talk to him. Please don't be angry." Yeah, 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 yeah. The usual. And he went off supposedly to talk to Chike. Now, when he came back, he told me that, he was going to the mountain to pray. Actually, he called me and I could barely hear this. All these conversations are all WhatsApp, right? He called me and I could barely hear what he was saying. Like there was a lot of what's it called? Bad network. So I told him, I was like, "I can't hear you." He said, "Oh, I'm in the mountain." Okay. So at this time, I thought that the mountain was a figurative speech. Like when you say on the mountain, I thought that just meant, like the way you'd say, "I'm going to into my prayer closet," and it might not necessarily be a closet, a physical closet. It could just be mentally, "I'm going into a place to pray with God." So that's what I thought when he said he was on the mountain. But apparently, sir was on an actual mountain. I didn't know this until later when he called me back and said, "Oh, sorry, you couldn't hear me. The network is bad on when we're on the mountain." So I'm like, that's how I found out that Sir was on the mountain. Okay, cool. Sir proceeds to tell me that while on the mountain, he prayed a lot for me, which Cool, you're a pastor. And I did just tell you that Chike don't vex me again. But Sir proceeded to tell me that while he was on the mountain, God revealed a lot of things to him. Mhm. Apparently, I was his wife. So I'm like, Sir, come again, sir. He's like, God told him that I was his wife. So I'm like, he's like, oh, are you afraid of being a pastor's wife? By the way, at this time, I didn't even know that Pastor John was not married. Again, I didn't know anything about this man. So he's like, are you afraid of being a pastor's wife? So I said, no, and which was the truth. I wasn't. I said, I'm not afraid of being a pastor's wife, but it's not something I've ever thought about or even desired. He's like, well, God told him that I was his wife. And I'm just like, uh-huh. Then he proceeds to badmouth Chike. Like he said so many bad things about Chike's family. I should stay away from that boy, stay away from the family. The devil is using him. Now, jury is still out. Now, whether the devil was using him, probably. But but my whole thing was what was compelling Pastor Chike, I mean, not Pastor Chike, Pastor John, what was compelling him to tell me the things he was telling me? He said that there was a Proverbs 31 woman that God revealed to him. I was a woman who of integrity. I was this, I was that. All of these things I am. You ain't got to tell me twice. Of course I am. He then told me that I should send him a picture of me. I said, no, I'm not comfortable doing that. So he says, no, it's just for prayer. Mm-mm-mm. First of all, my picture is public, right? You can find my picture online. So, but I was not going to use this, my God given hands, to send him the picture. So I said, because to me, that would imply consent for whatever it is he needed this picture for. And I was not consenting to it. So I was like, no, I'm not comfortable doing that. So Pastor John called me a couple more times to apply pressure. The pressure is getting stronger. He was telling me about how God really wanted this. Oh, here's the best part. Pastor John told me that, I'm a woman in my 30s and really men would be afraid of marrying me because why am I single in my 30s? He, on the other hand, was not afraid to marry me because God had told him I was his wife. So he had faith. He knew I was meant for him. And he said that men might be concerned because a woman in her 30s, can she even still have children? Is she even still fertile? Oh God. Listen. Okay, let me skip what I was about to say and finish the story. These are things Pastor John told me. So one day, Pastor John called me and I was home. I picked up the phone. My daughter, Ada Verastic, happened to come into the bedroom while I was having this conversation with Pastor John. So I don't know what she was asking me. So Pastor John says, oh, he's like, yeah, with children today. I said, a child, and with a child, my child. And he said, what did you say? I said, I'm with my child. He said, you have a child? Apparently, God did not tell him that part. I said, yes, I have a child. And there was this brief silence, and in my head, I can picture his head going upside down, and it's like he's like, "Who do you have the child with? Who is?" But Chike is not the father of the child. But of course, Chike is not the father of the child. I said, "Of course not. How can I only just met Chike when?" He said, "Well, then how did you get the child?" I said, "From when I was married. I'm divorced." He's like, you have married before? Yes. And you are divorced? Yeah. All these details God failed to tell him. God did not tell him I used to be married. I've gotten divorced. I got a child. Apparently, I'm fertile. God did not tell him that one. So this man could not get off the phone fast enough. Listen. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. That was, by the way, the end of this conversation about me being his wife. I guess God retracted and said, maybe God was like, oh, sorry, I didn't know that. Actually, I did not know that she has a child already. So she's not your wife. I ceased to be the Proverbs 31 woman. Is it 31? It is 31, right? I think so. Okay, we're going to not focus on that. Here's the thing. I hate that women are shamed for being single at any age. I hate it for us. I hate that, especially within our community, the Nigerian slash African community. I hate that a woman is shamed for not having kids. I hate that a woman is shamed for being divorced or being a single mother. I am not ashamed of it at all. Like, in fact, I dare say that I wear it with pride. I'm happy to tell you that I went through this thing, but I hate it for us that there is so much shame around this issue. Like, this is a thing that has happened since time immemorial. This is not a new thing. I also want to add that for people like Pastor John, if I was a woman who was unsure of myself, who was desperate to be married, I would, let's say I didn't even have a child and I'd never been married, but I was really like, oh my God, I'm in my 30s and I'm still single. If I was in that space, can you imagine the havoc that Mr. John would have done on my mind? I would believe him that, oh my God, I'm in my 30s and I'm single and it's over for me. And I might even end up marrying him, which we don't even have to experience it to know that that would have been sheer disaster. If you're watching this and you're single and you're a single woman of any age, I beg you, do not fall for the likes of Mr. John. Please ignore the world when they try to shame you for being single or for being childless or for being single with a child. Please, I beg you, I am on my proverbial knees. Don't let this happen to you. Do not let society happen to you. They will pressure you into nonsense. You will now be in it alone. And the same society will say, what's wrong with her? Why was she so desperate to be married? Funny enough, this is not the end of Mr. John. I actually have a part two, but I'm going to come back and tell you about that later. If you enjoyed this video, which I hope you did, please like it, please comment, please share, and please subscribe. Join the community. I have so much more I want to tell you. Thank you for watching. Bye.